Therefore, me mamuni akwaba eba Melodies TV so and ex-president John Dramani Mahama, he had an interview. Now, interview no me share na live, but me share no name so me be hear playback. He had an interview on pro NDC media outlet Wizard TV nti me share with YouTube. Na interview no wo have ye ewo ketekrache. Now, Mahama the stepmother ewuye ama womo ekosie no emse endra inti still wo wokete krache ena ye na interview no kan nsem bebre efa voters register ne ho obobo nsem so Akufo Addo amemu teso wo kan nsem bebre. Now Mahama wie ye no ye betia ne se wasanso aka nsem bi ekwa akoye se o ye the allegation abo na Akufo Addo se ende kotoka international airport ayeni na yenim se kotoka ye bo Mahama abaso se at least Mahama odi na nka wanye hwekra na kotoka se ne afi obe uplifting no Mahama magana fo ati ase se Akufo Addo wo ton kotoka international airport. Yes, sansem we asem bi ase nkrofo oka na nkrofo sha ase se wo mo ka somewhere last 2 months. I think said the aviation minister eba bonten ebe ka se enye sa nete. Now, Mahama has explained, Mahama Eka, se seni aye ya ade no ase ye the 70% to the 60% to say den ma a foreign national. Na tre say ye ton airport. Na ade a wo kan say hwe say Ghana airport pa na tre say airport a wo man bia airport a wo hu ne say wo man we at least mo airport na de mo amode no afi Ghana ye ba beton ye airport. Na Mahama kan ya na Mahama ka say reason aban ma for airport na ye kan wono Mahama kan say aban ba beton o see reason aban ma ene say revenue ana car sika wo mokoje ya wo mo edc airport na ase ehun se me aye tia eka na wo because e loan edc airport no ntu si we na de no sika na etia ka ase ye nheda entumi nya sika na mfentia nti na ya akoye say e wo say ye ton ana e wo say ye de man krofo bi na ye nyaska na ye de kotia ane na Mahama ka se da bi wono Mahama ne time e na wo ye airport no na wo mo ye clause bi mbra wo mo ye clause bi wo say if by act of force majeure na ye ka se bibi ye by act of force majeure if by any natural means inti want to me nyaska entia ye ebosia na de be see airport na nkrofo wo mo ma wo sika no they will have some sympathy for you inti wombe go wo mo terms ni mu kakra inti Mahama say Akufo Addo aban ka say wo mu nya sika no entua for airport na na say wo mu nya sika entua for we na then they shouldn't actually be selling the airport. They should trigger that clause wo no Mahama de share mu no the force majeure no because coronavirus aba yen say coronavirus ba ya to airport mu nti no sika na mba ena coronavirus so sebe act of force majeure wo clause ni mu nti wo nim die nti a Akufo Addo ebe ye na adwen say wo kwa koton airport no bebo audio no na mu nya mo tie sa airport in sensem ya mo be kaya somewhere around just last month the aviation workers omo ano mo ye adwuma wo airport ho call demonstration na wo mo so de asem na enam say Akufo Addo ton airport. So right now asem na akwa ye bebre minister ne ba bonte be ka say ye ton airport bia wo mo ye adwuma wo ho workers no wo mo se wo mu nim say ye ton airport. Former president Mahama so ba bonte ya be ka say ye ne kre na airport na ya de aye ton nti se ye ka to say ye ton ya ye ntro. Who will you believe? Nini nechi no e wo say ye ko na yekotie ensem a Mahama wode tuja in that interview. That interview was very long. I think about over 1 hour. But airport in ensem no, I think he used just about 5 minutes. Wode kasa extensively on the airport and I mean obetia senti yongo tie ensem a Mahama wode etuja.
An investment of almost $600 million was done in that airport, Kotoka International Airport. Fortunately, before we left office in September, I remember that evaluation of the airport was done. Evaluation study of Kotoka Airport was done. and was valued, if I remember, at 5-point-something billion Ghana cedis. That is the valuation of the airport. It also had an insured value, and the insured value was somewhere in the region of 3 to 4 billion cedis.
That's quite huge.
Huge amount, because a lot of money had been invested in the airport, and
over the period,
and it had become categorized as one of the 5 best airports in Africa. One of the 5 best airports. And then I saw a strange, development where a Turkish company is being given a concession to take over the airport and run it. The concession is a disguise. Behind that, in the period of the concession, 66% of the ownership share of the airport will be transferred to the Turkish company at a cost of $70 million. Even if you
compared to $600 million as you say,
investment and a value of in excess of 5 billion cedis. I mean, for $70 million, we're giving 66% shares of our airport, to a Turkish company. And so I said, we're against it. It is wrong. Every country's airport is its pride. You can have a management agreement to get somebody to manage it properly for you, and based on that, you pay them a certain, amount of money. But this is not an ordinary management agreement. They're going to get 2% of the revenues as management fee. But in addition, 66% of the ownership share of the airport is going to be transferred to them for $70 million. And I think that is absolutely wrong. Even if you sold some of the lands around the airport, you'll be able to raise far more than $70 million. So if it's $70 million we want, the other ways of raising it, the value of the lands around the airport alone are far in excess of $70 million. And I think that is wrong to give up our airport like that. They talk about not being able to service the loans that were taken to develop the airport. Now, I just want to tell this government, in any agreement, there are clauses for force majeure. It means that if there's an act of God or an act of nature, that makes it impossible for you to fulfill your obligations.
Like COVID-19.
At the time these loans were contracted, nobody knew COVID was going to happen. And COVID is affecting all airports around the world because it's affected aviation. And so all you need is to trigger the force majeure clauses and let the financiers know that, look, this is a situation that has arisen. And normally in those circumstances, they are able to, make some concessions. Aside from that, these loans are insured anyway. And so if government hasn't triggered force majeure, the way to go is not to try to sell off the airport, but to engage the financiers and have a rescheduling of the facility. Aside from that, there are many other ways that you can handle a situation like that. Rather than give out 66% of our shares in that airport, COVID is going to pass. As soon as the vaccination is received, airports will open again, flights will start coming in, revenue will start, coming in. But government even created the situation in the first place. The way I was able to get Airport Company Limited to build Terminal 3 was to release 60% of the airport passenger tax to them. The airport passenger tax is $100. We used to give airport company $40 and we put $60 in the consolidated fund. And so when I asked them to build Terminal 3, they came with a proposal and said, if you release our share, the 60% to us, we will use it to set up a financial structure to build Terminal 3. And so in the next budget cycle, we released their $400 passenger service tax to them. And if Kotoka is doing about 2 million passengers a year, then $100 times 2 million passengers is about $200 million. So they used that, went to Stanbic and African Development Bank and structured that facility. Now when this government comes, they put what they call a Capping and Realignment Act. And so out of the $100, they cap it. And so if financing of the various funds, if the money into the various funds exceeds 25% of the national budget, all the excess money is taken from the funds, including the airport tax. So government, that money that we had released to airport company, government started taking out of it and putting it back in the consolidated fund. Then aside from that, despite the fact that they had structured the facility on the airport tax, they took out part of that money, the airport tax, and gave to civil aviation, took part of it, gave to meteorological services. So the amount left began to become dangerously low and unable to service the debts. I mean, this is what government did. Whether deliberately or not deliberately, I don't know. But it would look like somebody wanted this financing structure to fail so that they could sell off the airport. I don't know.